Hey there, and welcome to episode 30 of Jazzy-Bytes, the video game channel where we talk about all things video game related, with me, Jazz. I hope you're keeping well. So this is going to be my Final Fantasy Retrospective Part 4. I'm going to be talking about Final Fantasy 8, I'm going to be talking about Final Fantasy 9, I'm going to be talking about Final Fantasy 10, and a first for the Final Fantasy series, a bona fide sequel to a core game, Final Fantasy X-2. So sit back, relax, and hopefully enjoy. Final Fantasy VIII was a role-playing game released on the PlayStation 1 in 1999. The game reflects the trends that Final Fantasy had already adopted by melding science and fantasy into a truly immersive mix. The game follows Squall Leonhardt as he leads a team of mercenaries known as Seed. He leads a group of mercenaries in a conflict sparked by the sorceress Ultimacia, who has travelled from the future and wants to compress time. I know I've said it before, but this Final Fantasy game involves an unforgettable cast of characters. We have the broody, quiet, anime-esque hero Squall Leonhardt, a master of the gunblade. Cypher, his rival in class and eventually on the battlefield as he turns out to be a pawn of Ultimacia. We have the lovely Rinoa Heartlily, Squall's love interest, and Zidane, an upbeat and charismatic fighter. Again, as with previous Final Fantasy games, the characters reflect general JRPG tropes of fighter, tank, healer, etc. This game is a timeless classic and totally deserves your time, with a storyline second to none in the series. Hyper-realistic characters in contrast to 7, and also an ending that has to be experienced to be believed. Final Fantasy IX takes things back to when it all started. Released in the space year 2000, the series focuses on a war between nations in the world of Gaia. This game departed from the cyberpunk, sometimes steampunk, more sciencey Final Fantasies of previous years, and took us back to a beautiful, deep, medieval fantasy-style setting. This was the last Final Fantasy to be released on PlayStation, and it needed to be something special. And what a swan song it truly was for the system. It drew heavily from previous Final Fantasy games with literal black and white mages, but characterised and critical to the storyline. Uniquely, you had 4 people in your party for this game, and tactical advantages could then be gained via the tweaked active time battle system, allowing a combination of offense and defense that hadn't been experienced in Final Fantasy games as of late. The main character Zidane is part of a ragtag drama group known as Tantalus, who is secretly planning on kidnapping Princess Garnet. But little do they know that this will spark into a chain of events that will eventually affect the entire world and course of history. Final Fantasy X was released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. Set on the watery world of Spira, the game follows Tidus, who finds himself in Spira after Sin attacks his homeland of Zanarkand. Shortly after arriving there, Tidus becomes a guardian to Yuna, a summoner who is travelling a pilgrimage to each temple in the land in order to learn the final summoning and ultimately defeat Sin. This game has absolutely killer cutscenes and killer gameplay. You take charge of 7 playable characters in total: Tidus, the young, happy Blitzball player and our hero; Yuna, a summoner on her way to destroy Sin; Kamari, a young Chewbacca type from the Ronso clan who has watched over Yuna her entire life; Waka, another Blitzball player. Incidentally, both of these characters were voiced by Joe, Bender from Futurama, DiMaggio. Lulu, a gorgeous dark mage who I've basically simped over since I first saw her; Oren, a warrior monk who was with Tidus' father, and together they defeated Sin 10 years previously; and last but not least we have Riku, a cousin of Yuna. With voice acting, amazing graphics, classic Final Fantasy tropes along with new ones such as being able to control summons, or eons as they are now known in battle, this Final Fantasy game is both a masterpiece of an achievement and easily one of the better games in the series. It incidentally was the first Final Fantasy game to spawn a bona fide sequel, Final Fantasy X-2. Set 2 years after the first game, much has changed in the land of Spira, with new ideals being introduced and old teachings being lost. Its strong female cast has Yuna as the protagonist and leader of the Gullwings, a band of sphere hunters. They travel across Spira in their airship, searching for valuable spheres which images, sounds, and other data can be stored on. Apart from being an absolutely rock-hard game, this does a lot for being progressive, taking the games in a bold new direction, and letting you know that sequels could be a thing when it comes to Final Fantasy. Well, I hope you enjoyed that mini delve into the world of Final Fantasy. I unfortunately did not enjoy making this video. My Squall figurine that I've owned for about 25 years at this point took a tumble and lost his head. I've been crying non-stop for the last 3 hours. We've probably got just enough time to talk about one bonus Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy XI. This game was completely online. To be fair, I never signed up to play the game and the servers are now closed. That's about all I've got to say about it. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. You guys take care of each other, stay safe, and I'll see you next time on Jazzy-Bytes. Peace out.